Hi, welcome to Trezor Academy program session 2. My name is Josef and I'm part of the Trezor Academy.
My name is Okin, or Nikolai Shongarero. I'm part of Easysats, and I host Trezor Academy Namibia.
So, in session 2, we are going to cover how to use Bitcoin. What are the tools you can use, how to orientate yourself in terms of what is on-chain, what is Lightning, and just how not to get wrecked, because that's also a big risk if you are in this space. So we are going to cover that. Please pay attention. That is the only thing you have to pay.
Correct. So let's get started. Everybody talks about Bitcoin. Now, a lot of people will ask you, how do I go and buy a Bitcoin? How do I go about this? The truth of the matter is that you don't actually have to buy a full Bitcoin. What you will do is you'll buy Satoshis. So I want you to think about it like this. When you think about money and you think about you have $1, that gives you a digit, a decimal place, and 2 points after the decimal, right? With Bitcoin, we have 8 points after the decimal, which means you can buy a fraction of a Bitcoin. One Bitcoin is made up of 100 million units called a Satoshi. A Satoshi is the smallest unit of account of Bitcoin. So I say this to say, you don't have to go out and say, hey, can I have one Bitcoin for 94,000? I think it just touched US. You can go and say, hey, I have $1. How many Satoshis can I get for this? And then you can purchase those Satoshis and stack them. But there is a bit of a difference here. As you know, I hope you know by now, we have two different terminologies when it comes to Bitcoin. We have a layer 1, which is Bitcoin on-chain, and then we have layer 2 technologies like the Lightning Network, which is built on top of the layer 1 technology. There's a couple of things to take into note when you think about the Lightning Network. Why would we want to use the Lightning Network, which is a layer 2, instead of Bitcoin at layer 1? Well, the Lightning Network was invented or brought about to bring instant settlement to the Bitcoin blockchain, right? Nobody that you went to go buy a coffee from wants to wait 30 or 15 minutes to be able to get that money settled into their Bitcoin wallet before you walk away with your goods. So think of it as an instant settlement via what your greatest one right now would probably be Visa. When you tap your card, it still takes longer than a Lightning transaction, mind you, but that is how you would probably see it. Now, whereas when you do an on-chain transaction, as you can see in the slide, we have Lightning at the top and Bitcoin at the bottom because Bitcoin is the layer 1. When you do an on-chain transaction, that can take 10 to 15 to 30 minutes because that block has to be confirmed by the Bitcoin miners. Now, Joseph, another reason that I would use Lightning is the low fees. As I just said, and if you would like to go into that a bit more, the difference between paying Lightning fees versus paying miner fees on the on-chain.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's a common myth in terms of Bitcoin that if you go and buy like a coffee or lunch with Bitcoin, you need to sit there for 20, 30 minutes or an hour to wait for the confirmation. The fees are going to be like half of your lunch. And that's not true anymore. Like that used to be the case maybe in like 2016. But since 2018, we have the Lightning Network developing on top of Bitcoin as a sort of payment layer. And with Lightning Network, you can pay small amounts, like $10 for your lunch. The fees are going to be really negligible in most cases, like a cent, and it's going to be instantaneous. So you just pay the merchant, the restaurant owner, and the restaurant owner is going to receive the payment in a couple of seconds, so you don't need to wait around for anything. In terms of on-chain Bitcoin, the recommendation is to use it for like larger transactions because it's like the full settlement layer where everybody keeps a copy of the transaction, and you don't actually need that level of safety, that level of reassurance for smaller transactions. For smaller transactions, like less than $100, let's say, you will always be better off if you use the Lightning Network.
That's correct. So to summarize that, what we would like you to think about when you think about Bitcoin on-chain and Bitcoin Lightning, think of Bitcoin Lightning like your transactional account. This is the account you use day to day to buy things like mobile airtime, coffee, some lunch. Whereas your Bitcoin on-chain, your layer 1 Bitcoin, that is your savings account. This is what you don't want to touch for small transactions. You want to hold this for years, maybe even 10, 20 years, so that you can pass it on. This is literally your savings that nobody can take from you without you giving them that access.
Yes, and you don't want to carry around like your family savings. Yeah, we're gonna cover that, like what types of wallets there are. But to give you an idea, in terms of Lightning Network, you would usually want to carry around what you would carry around in your ordinary like leather wallet, like $50 maybe. But your family savings, these should be kept safe and not with you on the street.
Correct. So when you look at this slide, it's a bit misleading. And I'll say it's a bit misleading because you might think that Visa, because of the instant settlement and my last example, means that the 8.8 trillion that you're seeing on Bitcoin is also Lightning, although it is not. That figure that you're looking at there is Bitcoin on-chain transactions. This is not even taking the Lightning Network into account. Yet, if you look at how much larger it is than the PayPal tap of 1.8 trillion, whereas we're looking at 8.8. And this is, of course, but this was last year's one, so these figures have actually grown even more. You'll see that Bitcoin is edging closer and closer, year on year, month on month, to where Visa currently is. And Visa is actually coming down a little bit because more people are starting to use cross-border settlements via Bitcoin than using Visa. It's cheaper, it's faster, and you don't have to go through as many documentations.
Yes, and Bitcoin you can actually use in places where you cannot use Visa. Like in many places in Africa, South America, you can use Bitcoin because you just need a mobile phone with your wallet on, which is just a piece of software. Whereas with Visa, you need a bank account linked to that. You need to have a government-issued ID, which a lot of people around the world actually don't have. So Bitcoin, it's reaching the transactional volumes of Visa, but also it's much more accessible for people around the world.
Yes. Just to finalize what Joseph said there, small example, in Namibia, you cannot open a bank account without a street address. Yet many people live in areas that have no street names. So to be able to get a bank account, you might actually have to go and commit fraud in some cases and say you live somewhere where you don't, so you can actually get a bank account just so you can save your money. And that should not be a reality for anybody. So what we're going to show you now, we're going to start talking about, as Joseph said, we're going to talk about Bitcoin wallets, different Bitcoin wallets. We're going to tell you about on-chain wallets, Lightning wallets, and a few ones that you can test out at your own leisure. So when we look at mobile wallets, right, wallets that are on your mobile phone, we have wallets that are custodial and non-custodial. But let's first speak about what is the difference about non-custodial versus a custodial account. I'll give you a small example. It seems I like examples. If you watch movies and you watch American movies, you'll understand that a post box is on a person's lawn. So that means anybody can come and put mail into the post box. But only you, as the owner of the post box on your lawn, can take the key at the back to take out things from that post box. The postman himself cannot stop you from taking out from your post box and who puts into that post box, right? But when you look at it from in Namibia, we have what's called a post office itself. You go and you rent post boxes at the post office. Now, what happens here is the owner of that post box is actually the post office. They give you access to the post box that you rent from them for that purpose. They are the ones with the key at the back that decides what mail is allowed to stay in your account. Now, when we or in your box, so that is called a custodial setup, if we would, right? The one where the post office holds your post box. Where the post box is on your lawn, that's called self-custody because you are the custodian of that. So once we start there, we now know the difference between custodial and non-custodial. We can go on to wallets that are custodial and non-custodial. Now, custodial wallets, mobile wallets, are there for ease of use. Like we said before, you need to think about some of these things like a transactional account. You don't want to save a lot of money in them, right? As Joseph said, $50, $50 US. Anything under that you can keep in a custodial wallet because you're using it to quickly be able to transact, not for you to be worried about, right? But Why would we want custodial wallets? Well, firstly, as we said, they are easier to use, but it's also easy to onboard people. They don't give you the words that we know as seed phrase, which we'll talk about just now, that you need to restore your wallet. These are used simply for convenience.
Yeah, and a very good example of a custodial wallet that we like to use is Blink. The everyday Bitcoin wallet used to be called Bitcoin Beach previously. The team is very well known in the industry. They are based in Salvador, which I believe is a very good jurisdiction for a company to run like Bitcoin software from. And but still keep in mind it's custodial. It's very easy to use, very quick, very cheap, maybe even no fees in between Blink wallets.
Right.
Right. And but you wouldn't want to carry around like thousands of dollars in your pocket. And this is what happens in terms of Blink, because you are not like in direct control of your money. So just keep in mind, not your keys, not your coins. Blink wallet is great for onboarding, for getting a hand of on Bitcoin Lightning transactions. You can try feeding the sheep with that, like in the previous session. But if you stack more Bitcoin than like $50, you need to consider wallets that we are going to cover later. But Okin, please tell us about Machankura.
Before I go into Machankura, which I love, I just want to emphasize on what Joseph just said. Not your keys, not your coins. The same, just think back to my example. Not your keys, not your mail. You can't be the one to open and say what can and cannot come in. So your keys are always, your keys matter. When we talk about custodial wallets, you never get your keys. They hold your keys, but they allow you to transact in an easy manner. Now, Machankura, let's come back to Machankura. How would I explain this one without going into too much detail? I would say one day I tweeted out, I love Bitcoin, but how do my people in the villages without smartphones or internet access get to use it? Another individual called KG messaged me on Twitter and said, give me 2 weeks. 2 weeks later, KG tweeted at me and said, it's called Machankura, and it's in 6 different African countries already. Would you like it in yours? How Machankura works is you don't need the internet. You don't need a smartphone. You can use what's called a feature phone, like the old Nokia 3310s or the old Motorolas. And what you do is you use USSD codes. Yes, you heard me correctly. USSD codes. *142, *833 hash. In Namibia, that'll actually get you your Bitcoin wallet on Machankura. Now you can send and receive Bitcoin without using any internet access, which means you could be in a village, you could be on a farm, you could be on a boat, and you would still, as long as there is GSM network available, you will be able to send that Bitcoin.
Yeah, I strongly encourage you to research Machankura. I think the website is 8333.mobi.
Correct. 8333.mobi.
Yes,
It's also an
exciting
joke.
project. Yeah,
inside joke, that one.
right.
So now, of course, as you can see, this is a workshop slide. What we would like you to do is to be able to use Bitcoin, not just think about it, not just speak about it, but actually be able to utilize it in your day-to-day. And to do that, we would have to give you the tools in your hand so that you can actually use it. Joseph.
Right, so what you would do here is you download the Blink wallet or visit the website 833.mobi. So now you have a way how to accept Bitcoin. You create an account using your phone number or email. You just tap receive on it. You don't need to provide any personal identification like with the bank. It's just a software in your phone or website. And then you can receive the sats. If we are in the classroom, we will send you the sats right now. Or you can just ask some local Bitcoiner if you know anybody, or if you are part of some like local Bitcoin chat. You can ask, okay, I'm trying this out. I have downloaded the Blink wallet, or I'm trying out Machankura. Just please send me like 10 Satoshi. The value of that is negligible, so usually people will try. Yeah, we will send it to you, and then you can try it the other way to just send those sets to somebody else, and you will find out that sending and receiving Bitcoin is actually much easier than like doing internet banking wire transfers, for example.
Correct. As Joseph just alluded to, if once you send that Bitcoin, you're going to find out it's as simple to send Satoshis as it is to send a WhatsApp message, an SMS, or even to make a tweet. But it's easier to set up this custodial wallet than it is a Facebook account. That in itself shows you that the barriers of entry for Bitcoin are being decreased to make sure that you can utilize this as a day-to-day activity anywhere in the world.
Yeah, and we have also two more points on this slide. The first one is Bitcoin Lightning Network is interoperable. It's an open protocol, meaning there's Bitcoin running underneath, but you can use any type of wallet app, to access it and to send and receive Bitcoin. So, for example, I don't have to use the same wallet as Okin does. We can do a transaction Machankura to Blink or to Phoenix or some other Lightning wallet, which isn't the case with stuff like Twitter, for example. If you have a Twitter account, you have the Twitter protocol running and you need to access it with the Twitter app or a Facebook app. And these protocols are not interoperable. The huge power of Bitcoin and Lightning is it's an open interoperable protocol that you can access from all kinds of different wallets, which are usually open source, which means secure, and a lot of people just try to find bugs and make them secure. So if any single app fails, like Blink or Machankura, it doesn't mean that the whole thing fails. That's what we also covered like in the previous session, that Bitcoin is open and decentralized and why it's so resilient. The other point we want to make here is if you were to send like a Lightning transaction in between each other, it will take like 1 second, maybe even less. And it will be the same if Okin was on the other part of the world. Right now we are in Czech Republic. If Okin was back home in Namibia, it will take the same time.
It has. We've actually tested this out. We've done it before. So it's not something that we're just telling you because we think it's a good idea. We've used these tools. And you right now today, this is why the slide is here, is for you to use these tools so that when people ask you, are you sure Bitcoin can work? You can tell them that you've done this yourself, not just that you heard of somebody that has done this. And this is why these workshops are important. So now let's move on to the other set of mobile wallets, which is what we discussed before, which is self-custodial mobile wallets. This is where you get your 12 or 24 words, known as your seed phrase, right? Your keys, so to speak. Now, why are these important? So first, let's go back and recap. Why do we want self-custodial wallets? They give you your keys, which means you are the only person that has the access to deny, if you wanted to, a transaction to happen. You are the only person who has the ability to send and receive, or to send that Bitcoin, because you need the keys to be able to sign that transaction for it to move. Okay, so now there's a couple of self-custodial wallets. You might think they're less than the custodial ones, but they are real self-custodial wallets. A couple of these are Phoenix Wallet, Breeze Wallet, Aqua Wallet, and Blue Wallet. I'll start with Blue Wallet. Blue Wallet, as an app, gives you the ability to create different Bitcoin wallets. So you can have multiple in there. Whereas Phoenix doesn't do that. Aqua doesn't do that, and neither does Breeze. So this tells you, even though apps can be built differently and for different use cases, they can still, as Joseph said, be interoperable to be able to send to one another. But again, these are also for moderate amounts. This is a mobile wallet. You do not want to keep your family life savings on your phone, okay? So what you would want to do is keep nothing more than 500 US on a self-custodial mobile wallet. But remember, these are ones that come with your keys, so they are your coins.
Yeah, and one important point maybe, or for you to be aware, there might be some fees attached to using these wallets. Like for example, the Phoenix wallet, it's a Lightning Network wallet. And since you are in control of that wallet, you need to do something called opening a Lightning channel. And usually this costs, if it hasn't changed, it costs around 1% of the transaction that you are sending in. So you need to set it up, and it has some costs attached, but this is the price you pay for being in control.
Correct. So just to finalize on that, when we speak about the Lightning Network, you need to think of it as a mesh of different nodes that connect to each other. So think about it like this. When I go to a bank, to a restaurant, I do not want to pay after every single meal. I don't want to pay after the starters, then after the main course, then after and for the drinks. And so what you do is you run a tab, especially if you're a group of friends. That tab is then cleared, or that bill is cleared at the end of the night. So the whole night you can go back and forth with transactions saying, hey, can I have a cool drink? Can I have a burger? Can I have? And then at the end of the night, you say, let us settle up. Maybe at the end of the month, even if you're a good customer. Maybe you have a running tab. Now, what happens in the Lightning Network is you are making a payment. I am making a payment, let's say, to Trezor. But I don't have a direct channel from my Lightning node to Trezor's Lightning node. But I have a direct channel from my Lightning node to Joseph's Lightning node, and Joseph has a Lightning node channel connected to Trezor. What happens now is my payment is routed via Joseph's node to Trezor. The same thing happens in the banking industry. Banks route payments via other banks. So they have different nodes that move that money from Namibia to the US or vice versa. We're just saying you are those nodes now. You control those nodes. You can even do it with 0% fee if you want. You can say my routing fee is 0 on my node. Joseph can say his is 3, and he'll earn that 3% as it goes past. So, or those 3 sats as it goes past. So you have to just see the reason to go self-custodial is because you have full control of your keys, of your channels, of all of that. Whereas if you are custodial, other people have taken away, abstracted all of that activity for you to make it easy for you to move forward.
Perfect.
So here's my favorite part of the workshop. And this is where we generate our own seed phrase. Because you want to know, well, how does this 12-word thing come about? How do I get my 12 or 24 words? And some wallets, and there's a reason I keep saying 12 or 24, some wallets give you 12 words, others give you 24 words. The difference between these isn't that great when it comes to somebody trying to attack you, right? You still have to remember the words, you still have to store them secretly and securely so that you know nobody has access to your Bitcoin.
Yeah, I wouldn't say remember. That's a I know you misspoke because you always need to write these words down.
Right.
Don't rely on your memory. The human memory is a very bad medium for you to keep like some secret in. You need to write those down.
Yes.
So yeah, what you want to do before you start actually interacting with Bitcoin in a way where you actually store some money in it is to try it out, to find out how it works. So for example, here we recommend downloading a Blue Wallet or Phoenix. They will show you the secret words. Don't take screenshots. Don't put it on a cloud server or your email or your chat. Just write those down physically on a piece of paper. Delete that wallet and try to recreate that wallet from the piece of paper that you have written it down on. This is very important for you to understand that you can recover the wallet like this from the piece of paper, or later you can put it on steel, or there are many solutions like that, more durable than a piece of paper. But what is important for you to understand is the app itself doesn't hold your Bitcoin. The Bitcoin is actually recreated. The Bitcoin holdings are recreated from the seed words you have written down, and you can import those into other wallets than the one you have created those in at first. And so if for example something happens to your phone, you haven't lost your Bitcoin because you can recreate them from this piece of paper.
Just to emphasize on that, I just want to, because Joseph made a very great point there saying, do not try to remember your seed phrase. I actually did. I tried that and I lost access to my Bitcoin for 3 months. I took a walk one day and somehow memorized. So don't try to remember it. Also, another factor here of the interoperability that Joseph was just speaking about is if, let's say, Blue Wallet goes down, the company stops existing tomorrow. You can still take those 12 words, your seed phrase, and go and put them into another wallet, and you will still have access to your Bitcoin. Because as he rightly said, it does not live in that wallet. Your Bitcoin isn't the app, so to say.
Yes. And what you write down, the seed phrase, is the most sensitive thing around Bitcoin for you personally. Because if anybody sees those, that's why I say don't take a photo and upload it anywhere. If anybody sees those secret words, they can just steal your Bitcoin from you. So that's the most sensitive thing you need to take care of.
So just think about it like somebody stealing your house or you giving somebody your house keys. You've given them access to everything in your house, including the house itself. So please don't do that. So here is, clearly I love Bitcoin, but hardware wallets are another factor. So now we're getting to where you're really saving. Remember, as we save, everybody in your whole life, you've had saving plans. People have told you, try to save $1 a day, $20 a week, whatever it is. The reason for that is to accumulate into a state where you can really say, okay, I really need to find somewhere to put this because that value is now great. What this is what we call a hardware wallet, right? And with hardware wallets, there are no custodial hardware wallets. If somebody tells you there's a custodial hardware wallet, please run and report them to somebody, because that means that the device, because a hardware wallet is an off-chain device. Remember, your cell phone is an always-on device. It's always on the internet. So anybody could, if somebody was able to hack your phone and you were busy looking at your 12 words at that point in time, they would be able to see them. So what we want to do here is make sure that there's different levels of security that you can go through and that you can feel totally safe doing once you've actually gone through the motions of doing them. Hardware wallets are off-chain. These wallets are not always online. You can put them away in a box. When you need them, you can then bring them out to utilize. The keys are always offline because this hardware wallet isn't attached to the internet all the time. So literally think of it like a pen in your drawer that you only bring out to sign a, well, it's weird to use this terminology now because we don't have checks anymore, but when we used to have checkbooks, if you just had that one pen, it's the only pen that signs that checkbook is a fountain pen maybe. If that checkbook gets, or a check gets signed with a ballpoint pen, the people at the back will be like, but this person only signs with this. Why is this now? What's going on? So we're looking at different security features here that come along with using things like a hardware wallet.
Yeah, so to recap, the safest way to hold your Bitcoin is through a hardware wallet. Hardware wallet is a specific purpose device, meaning you cannot use it for basically anything else than just storing your Bitcoin and signing transactions. It's happening in an open source environment, meaning a lot of eyes are looking for bugs and reporting them to the companies that create these wallets. There's bug bounties for the researchers, so they are rewarded for looking for the bugs. And that's the best way how to achieve like any meaningful digital security if you have like everything open source. So the example here is Trezor. Trezor is the world's first hardware wallet, fully open source to this day, and very battle tested because it's been around for more than 10 years. And you can do everything on the device screen now, meaning you don't put anything sensitive in the general purpose hardware like this laptop or your phone. But the like sort of trade-off here is you wouldn't use hardware wallet for very small amounts, like $10 worth of Bitcoin. One of the reasons is because there are costs attached to getting this device. We don't give them out freely. So let's say the cheapest hardware wallet is around $50 now. So it makes sense for you to get a hardware wallet if you have at least $500 worth of Bitcoin, so that the device cost is 10% or less. But if you reach these levels, you don't want to hold them in a custodial wallet or a mobile phone wallet. You want to hold those coins in your hardware wallet device.
And just to go further there, remember that even if somebody gets your hardware wallet, they still need your seed phrase to be able to utilize it. So you can separate your hardware wallet, put it somewhere, and put your seed phrase somewhere else. People would have to bring both of those together and know how to utilize them to be able to get your Bitcoin. So the security model here is to say, this is really where we say your keys are your coins. Once those keys move, even if you have a hardware wallet, those keys still need to be utilized with that wallet. So please, 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 if you take anything away from this, please secure your keys. That seed phrase. Write it down. Make sure you're not anywhere around cameras. Be in a room by yourself if you have to. But make sure that it is secure.
Yes.
So this slide over here is a nice recap of what we've been talking about and your progression along this path. If you start off with $20, do not try and go straight to go get a hardware wallet. There's a couple of other reasons for this. To put that $20 on chain, there's a fee attached. That fee does not need to be attached for $20. You can use a custodial Lightning wallet or non-custodial Lightning wallet to be able to ensure that you can go forward with that. Okay? So use your custodial wallets for testing to make sure you understand how to utilize Bitcoin to be able to receive Bitcoin very quickly. Because at the end of the day, and I've tested this, the sending and receiving of Bitcoin via Lightning Network is faster than tapping your card, your Visa card or your MasterCard. This is just a fact. I've tested this many times, and people aren't very happy when I do it because they're like, why do I have this other device? But you want to use these things to test, to send to your family members, to quickly be able to tip an artist. But that's about it. You do not want to be holding a lot of funds in this. But as you progress in your Bitcoin holdings, you start earning more, you start storing more, you start buying more Bitcoin, you'd want to become a little bit more secure in how these things work. And that's where you would use your self-custodial like mobile wallets. Now, when you're using your self-custodial mobile wallets, as we said before, you'd want nothing above 500 US. Again, if you're walking around in your pockets with more than 500 US, then maybe that's something you're used to. But most people would want to use only transactional or keep only transactional money, also to make sure that they're not a target of people off of a mobile device, right? If you're storing stuff in a safe, you don't walk around with the safe everywhere. You go and open the safe and then put down $20 and then close the safe that has $600 million or whatever. You don't do that. Okay, so this is the same thing that you need to realize is you do not want to walk around with your life savings or your family life savings, but you can do between 50 and 500. But then again, as you get to that 500 step and you start accumulating more, now you're in something that can change people's lives. This is money that actually can change people's lives. So what you would want to do with this is secure it, make sure nobody has access to this but you. And I mean really nobody. You can send people Bitcoin if you want them to have it, but don't give them your keys, okay? And this is where we get to the hardware wallets, where you really are saying, hey, I am holding so much Bitcoin right now, I'm accumulating so much Bitcoin, I need something that I can trust isn't backdoored. Even your phone could be backdoored, you know? So you need to start looking at different threat models when it comes to how you secure your Bitcoin. This one is, why is everything my favorite one, it seems? So, Bitcoin Explorers. When we talk about Onchain, how do you know that the payment that the person says was made? How can you follow that transaction to make sure when it is confirmed on-chain so you can give off those goods and services that on-chain transaction was paid for? This is done via a Bitcoin Block Explorer. Joseph, would you like to?
Yes. So what is a Bitcoin Explorer? You can think about it as a website where, for example, in here we have shown mempool.space. So you go on that website, mempool.space, and you can see what's going on. You can see some blogs that have been mined recently, some blogs that are waiting to be mined. And probably the most important thing for you is if you know what your address is, your Bitcoin address, and this is for on-chain Bitcoin, not Lightning, just on-chain only. So you know what your Bitcoin address is, and you are waiting for some transaction, and you don't, let's say, have direct access to your wallet right now, or you want to double check that what you see in your wallet app is what's actually happening. You paste your address into the search field up there. You hit enter and you can see what are the transactions related to that address.
Right.
One maybe point of caution, since you are typing in your address, which is like a public thing, it's not a secret thing. Nobody can steal funds from you just knowing your address, but they could potentially link the IP address you are looking from to that Bitcoin address. So it's good. It's always a good idea to use VPNs.
Correct, very much so. And just so that, because I know you're probably thinking, but what is this block? Are you saying that every one of those is a full transaction? So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn around so you can see how a block is constructed, what is inside of a block. It's on the back of my t-shirt. And then Joseph's going to tell you what's happening there.
All right. Yes. This is one of the best t-shirts I know, Easysats. So yeah, this is a Bitcoin block. You can only put a specific amount of, or a limited amount of Bitcoin transactions into Bitcoin block because it has a limited size, let's say 2 megabytes usually, around 2 to 3 megabytes, depends on what the structure of transactions are. There are some larger transactions where people send over larger amounts of money. There are lots of small transactions with smaller fees, depends on how fast the people want that transaction to be confirmed. And it all gets squeezed into a Bitcoin block. That the Bitcoin miners, people that are actually running the machines that confirm Bitcoin blocks, that they basically confirm as a specific like a data block. Yeah. Do you like have a better way of explaining this?
That is the great way that he explained it. So when you look at that block, every one of those individual blocks is a transaction. Those transactions are brought together in a block form to say what is the transactional fees that each one of those people are paying, or each one of those transactions are paying. What miners do is they bring together because remember, they're getting paid the fees. So they bring together all the fees that are going to give them the best return. And then they try to put that into the next block to come. As you can see, when you're looking at this slide, there is a white dotted line in the middle. All of the blocks on the right have a number above them. They have been confirmed. The ones on the left have not. There's no number there because they haven't been confirmed. So your transaction will show as a small little white triangle at the bottom of the block on the left. And you can see it moving as more transactions get added to the block you were supposed to be in that have higher fees. You get kicked to the next block. So this is where you bid with your fees to get into the next block space so that miners come and take it. And that's how your blocks get confirmed and your transactions get confirmed.
Yeah, and a very useful property of using Bitcoin explorers is nobody can cheat you with like a fake Bitcoin or just saying they've sent you some Bitcoin where in fact they didn't. Because what you can do, even if you don't run your own full node, but you can run the Bitcoin Explorer on top of your full node. But even if you don't do that, you can check multiple Bitcoin Explorers, paste in your address, preferably via VPN, but just paste in your Bitcoin address, and you can see that you have actually received some Bitcoin, and it's actual Bitcoin because you are on a Bitcoin Explorer. So it's basically impossible to do PayPal scams, for example, where somebody buys from a merchant, sends them the money, and then reverses the transaction, because that's possible in the fiat financial system. With Bitcoin, if you see there is at least one confirmation, meaning the transaction has been mined as on the back of Okin's shirt, it's part of the block, then it's impossible to reverse the transaction and it's fully settled.
And to add to this, just remember that, as Joseph said, when you look at these blocks and you see that it's a confirmed transaction, what most people will tell you is they want you to wait 3 transactions, 3 or 6 transactions. Why? Confirmations, sorry. Why is that? Because people actually don't understand how blockchains are built. They are not built like a link chain, right? They're not next to each other. They're actually on top of each other. So that if you want to come and undo the transaction that happened here, you would have to go all the way down, redo this block's transactions and all of the transactions above it, all those blocks, you're going to have to do all that work before the next block comes in. Otherwise, all your work is gone. So this is why miners generally don't try to do the whole double spend. They just would rather get paid for being honest miners. So less work, right? And you still get your reward.
Yeah, this is another piece of the puzzle why Bitcoin is so resilient and very hard to copy in a meaningful way, and impossible to ban. And it's good to go on some of these explorers, like a Mempool space, and just watch how the blocks go by. It's very
it's therapeutic.
It's therapeutic. Sometimes I just enjoy that. You can see Bitcoin in action, and the beautiful thing is nobody's preventing you from doing that. You can just watch how Bitcoin works and verify everything for yourself by yourself.
Just to move on, before we move on to the next slide, just to add to that, when we spoke earlier in the first session about assayers, gold assayers that need to actually be there to make sure this is gold, this is how you are your own Bitcoin assayer. You now have these block explorers to say, oh no, that's not real Bitcoin, I can see. Where is it? Like, you don't need a specialist anymore for this. You can do this with not even a computer. You can go on your mobile phone And you can go to any one of these block explorers that are examples like mempool.space, blockstream.info, or btc1.trezor.io. Those will literally give you the ability to do this yourself for free. You don't even have to pay anybody. Now, how do you get Bitcoin? We've been talking about Bitcoin, where you should store it, how you should store it, all the different progressions. But how do you actually get your hands on Bitcoin? So my favorite way, well, one of them is a peer-to-peer exchange. Why would I say that's my favorite way? Because that's how Bitcoin was built. It's a peer-to-peer electronic cash system, meaning that the way it's supposed to be used is from me to you, from you to whoever you want, peer-to-peer, right? In-person cash trades could be seen as a peer-to-peer transaction. I want this water. You will come to me and say, okay, for this water, it's going to cost so much. I'll pull out the cash, I'll give it to you, I take it and I leave. No bank was involved in that transaction. No third party was involved. No oversight of government had to be there for me to buy water from you. That is a cash peer-to-peer transaction. Now, you can do this with Bitcoin. I can meet up with you and say, hey, I'd like $50 of Bitcoin. Do you have that Bitcoin? And then I can buy it directly from Joseph. I say, Joseph, here's the money. Here's my wallet. Joseph sends it to my wallet, he takes his money and he leaves. The only people that know of that transaction was the two peers, right? So a peer-to-peer exchange is one of the safest and oldest forms of actually using not only Bitcoin, but anything of value when you want to give it to somebody. It is not, you don't get a third person to give it to the person. You go directly to them. And that in itself is great. But also, you have to understand, when you do a peer-to-peer transaction, it's risky. It's in person. It's in real life. If you're going to a meetup, to meet up with somebody, you're saying, let's meet at this coffee store, they know who you are. They can see your face. They know you have Bitcoin now. So you have to also think about your own threat level progress on when you get Bitcoin, right? Not only when you store it, you also have to think about it when you're getting it, because who are you getting it from? Is it a good person, a bad person? It doesn't really matter. But if you're doing it in person, you need to make sure.
Yeah. In terms of peer-to-peer exchange, it's important to work with a real-life reputation. So you don't really want to meet with strangers, maybe in some secluded place with a lot of cash involved. So what you want to do is do it in a public space, like a cafe. Do like a small transaction at first for sure, and like ideally have some way of vetting the person you are meeting with, and we actually have a very good tool for that in place that we are going to cover a little bit later.
Oh, well,
right now.
It's now a little bit later. So this tool that we're speaking about is called Vexel. Vexel is an amazing tool. And why do I say that? Because Vexel is an online peer-to-peer exchange. Vexel makes sure that you do not have to KYC yourself. The other person that you're busy transacting with doesn't have to KYC themselves. But at the same time, it doesn't reveal your identities to each other at all. It is completely pseudonymous. So when you are speaking to somebody on Vexel to say, I would like that offer that you've put up, they do not know it is Okin speaking to Joseph. We could both be on Vexel right now. Joseph can put up an offer. I can accept the offer. Joseph will not know it is me that has done this until we reveal our identities, if we so wish to do.
Yeah, so Vexel, all the interactions in between the users in the app are end-to-end encrypted. So maybe if you've heard about Signal, the messaging app, that's very similar. It's end-to-end encrypted, and nobody, not even the Vexel developers, the Vexel server, can see what is happening in between the users and actually who the users even are. One very important thing, cryptography. The second very important element of this is it's fully open source. You can check out the source code on GitHub, or if you cannot read the code, that doesn't really matter that much for you personally, because you can rest assured that a lot of people in the space are looking at that code. It's a very similar approach to how Bitcoin itself works. Bitcoin wouldn't be here if it was an open source, and a lot of people around the world were looking for bugs and fixing those bugs. And it's the same with Vexel. So you don't have to trust us saying that Vexel is safe for you wherever you are in the world and that nobody can see inside your interactions. You can read the audits, for example, from others, and read the commentaries from other people actually looking and having the skills to look at the code. And the third important element of the Vexel app is it's like a public good gift to the Bitcoin community by Satoshi Labs that's behind Trezor. And so you are not monetized for using the app. A lot of stuff that's free on the internet, you always have to pay something. Usually you pay with your data, with your attention. You're gonna get shown some ads and stuff like that. Vexel isn't like that. Vexel is built on like the foundation donation model. And the Vexel app, you can download it for free on iOS or Android, and you can start using it. The best setting for starting using Vexel is actually at some local Bitcoin meetup, because you need to connect with the other users of the app.
Also, just to add, do understand that on Vexel, it's not just about buying Bitcoin. It's about what you can also buy with Bitcoin. It is an exchange. So you can literally put up a house, a car, chickens, eggs. I've seen people sell eggs. I've seen people sell music albums on Vexel.
Horses.
And horses even, right? And what you can do is, when you're selling this, what you're receiving, you can say, okay, no, I would like my payment on-chain, Lightning, all of this. And all of those terms, even if you want to put a markup for your selling of everything, all of that is done in-app. And it's done, as Joseph said, your data isn't being monetized via this app. This app is put out the same way the Bitcoin code was put out, to better our experiences with each other and abilities to interact.
Yeah, so you can check out Vexel if you scan this QR code, and yeah, try maybe to bring it up at a local Bitcoin meetup, because it's a very powerful tool for you to connect with local Bitcoiners in a very safe, private way without anybody having to know like what your interactions are, as it should be.
Just to add to that, Vexel does require one thing for it to work effectively. Now, I'm going to tell you why after I tell you what it is, but it is really important to understand that this isn't for the reason of trying to KYC you. Vexel requires you to sign up with your cell phone number, because how you connect to all of the other people that are also synonymous on there is via your cell phone groupings. So if I have Joseph's number and you don't have my number that's sitting there, but you have Joseph's number, and I put up an offer on Vexel where I say not just my first peers, but their peers as well, you will see my offer via Joseph. Still won't say my name, Okin, but you'll see an offer there saying, oh, that's actually what I wanted. So these numbers are used to say the same way that you have a guy that for your chickens or for eggs, or a guy that fixes your car. Now you have a Bitcoin guy that you contact via Vexel, or a Bitcoin girl that you contact via Vexel, whichever way, but you can get other people. You can see the entire exchange of what is available or what is being requested, and only along your circle. What this allows you to do is to make sure that when you put up an offer and you say only my initial contacts can see this, my first touch contacts, there is no way that some random 3-letter government has somebody with your number that is seeing this that you're putting up. And even if they did, they wouldn't know it's you.
Yeah, and a very important point to make here is the phone numbers are not shared
Yeah.
with the other users. Even if you put up an offer, the people cannot see what your number is. You have an option to reveal like your identity that you have set up. It can be a fake name, fake profile picture, but your phone number, but you don't have to reveal that to anybody. So very private way to connect to other Bitcoiners.
It's amazing. It's amazing. We love Vexel.
Yeah.
So please do download it and start trying it out. Let us know if you have any questions. Vexel does have a Twitter account where you can send through any questions there too.
Yeah.
So as you can see on this slide, that we're talking about Azteco vouchers. Now, why Azteco vouchers matter on how you can obtain Bitcoin is because I want you to think of it as buying mobile airtime. When you walk into a store to go buy mobile airtime for your phone, you don't have to show them identification. You put down the money, they give you the mobile airtime, and you leave. The same thing happens with Azteco vouchers. This is what we like to call disposable Bitcoin. There's no KYC needed. You go in, you ask how much you would like to purchase. They will tell you the rate that you will get in Bitcoin for that, because there is a fee attached to every transaction by Azteco. And then once you confirm, they will hit the confirm button. You can then take out your Bitcoin wallet on your phone. So you scan the QR code, it will redeem it into your wallet, and you can leave. Yet, if you are not at the physical location, you can have somebody send you a screenshot of the QR code, which you can then redeem into your Bitcoin wallet. So what this does is to make sure that you can obtain Bitcoin, not for large amounts. These are used for smaller amounts, but you can do this KYC free at any point in time that you feel that you would like to update or add to your Bitcoin holdings.
And where can you get the Azteca vouchers?
Well, the greatest thing that you could actually do is first go to Azte, so it's azte.co. You go to their website, and they will tell you all of the merchants that they have available globally. So there are quite a bit. Some only sell in person, some sell online, and Azteco itself allows you to purchase from certain companies or countries, online as well. So you just need to go to the website, look at their terms and conditions, see if you do agree with it, and then, find your vendor and move forward. But that's how we get Bitcoin, right? Buying it. When you want to purchase Bitcoin, you can use an exchange, you can use things like Azteco, you can use Vexel, which is a peer-to-peer exchange, or what you can do is, again, one of my favorite ways, this is how I got into Bitcoin, I earn it, right? Earning Bitcoin is, for me, a lot safer and a lot easier than buying Bitcoin. And why is this? Because you already have skills and or products that you have out there for fiat. The truth of the matter is, a lot of these services and a lot of these skills are needed in things like Bitcoin companies, are needed in different areas where you can say, I would like to be paid in Bitcoin for this service or this good. That is the easiest way to obtain Bitcoin, is to say, hey, I also accept Bitcoin for this good or service. But there are more. You could find things. What I did was I upskilled myself. I realized that I did not have the skills that people were looking for en masse to be paid in Bitcoin. So what I did was I went to go look, okay, what are they hiring for? Which one of these things do I feel I want to be involved in? Because if you don't enjoy doing it, it's going to seem like more work. And then once I did that, I started being able to monetize in different instances. Yes, my podcast, yes, but again, skills and stuff that you already have, you can use those.
Yeah, so what's important about Bitcoin as such is it's actual money, meaning you don't have to just use it as a savings instrument, but you can sell your goods and services for Bitcoin because it's money. You can choose the type of money that you are receiving, and part of that can be Bitcoin. So for let's say taxi drivers or like some small business, or if you're just trying it out, you just need like a wallet app, like maybe Blank if you're starting out, and you can receive like some tip or some small payments through that. If you run like a larger business, maybe like an e-shop, an e-commerce website, what I highly recommend is a software tool called BTC Pay. It's a self-hosted payment gate. So you don't need to, again, have any permission to receive the payments from your customers, because you can run that by yourself on your computer. Bitcoin is peer-to-peer, even in the tools that we use. I myself run the BTC Pay, and it's an amazing experience. You learn quite a lot, and you appreciate like every single payment. But you can also, for example, get onto Nostr and experience like even broader like peer-to-peer revolution that's happening, not just in terms of payment, but in terms of exchanging information with each other. That's Nostr. And the nice property of Nostr is Bitcoin is like native money to it. So if you are on a Nostr client like Primal, for example, you can like each other's tweets or posts, or you can zap them, meaning you can send some small amount of Bitcoin to other users around the world. It's a brilliant experience to try that out.
As Joseph just said, those tools, BTC Pay Server, Nostr, they're great because they allow you to receive value, but also to give value to those that you feel the content that they are giving you or the advice they're giving you or any information is also valuable. You can send, as Joseph just said, a zap to them via something like Nostr. Yet there are more. Let's say you're a musician or you have a podcast. You have platforms like Fountain and Wavelake, where when you put up your content, whether it be music or podcasting, people can zap you for that content that you have given them. So let's say you're listening to a podcast that's one of Joseph's podcasts that's maybe 2 hours long, and you, in an hour and 30 minutes, you're like, man, That bit of information I got right there changed my whole life. I can build a business off of that. You can now say, hey, I don't know, Joseph, but because he gave me this and I feel it's valuable, I can zap him some and say, thank you very much. Maybe even if it's just whatever amount of sats you can give as a thank you for information that was already put out there for free. Now, Joseph has earned some sats. You got an idea on what you can go do forward, and now you can find another way to earn sats. So it's a self-fulfilling prophecy almost. Now, we come to my least favorite way of buying Bitcoin, but it is how most people are going to obtain it. So we're going to speak about one of the ways that is KYC'd, and that is Bitcoin exchanges. Now, you can use other exchanges, but we're going to talk about mainly Bitcoin exchanges. And the reason that you would use this for many people is they don't have on and off ramps in their countries. They don't have meetups, or there are not enough Bitcoiners that they are associated with to be able to do peer-to-peer transactions. So what these people do is they will use something like an exchange where they can attach their bank account to it and then easily purchase and sell their Bitcoin through that exchange. Now, I want you to remember, this is a KYC method. Know your customer, meaning that these exchanges will ask you for things such as your proof of residence, a selfie, of course, your bank account details, and some of them even ask for water and electricity bills, if you believe it, because they need to also, as they are an exchange, there are certain legalities that they have to go along with. Now, I will say, when you deal with exchanges, you need to be very, very, very careful about scams that are out there. Not just the exchange itself being a scam, but scammers on these exchanges, because you don't know these people from anywhere, but they are telling you to trust it.
Yeah, and there's like exchange hacks, the exchanges itself collapsing. So always remember to withdraw your Bitcoin from the exchange to your Bitcoin wallet as soon as possible. Now, we have listed some reputable exchanges here that are active in Africa, have been active for some years already. So you probably won't get burned using those. Still, remember, there's KYC. You need to withdraw as soon as possible, and you never know what's gonna happen because you're not in charge of your Bitcoin and even of your personal data if you use these types of services.
Very correct. Your personal data is you should be very careful with that. That is digital oil, I would say. Now, we spoke about mining earlier, but we didn't delve into why, right? So when you talk about mining, it is a way that you can earn Bitcoin, of course, because miners are the ones that receive the Coinbase reward, right? Which is right now sitting at, I think, 3.126,
125.
3.125 per block. So every block that a miner is able to confirm, right? If that miner or that mining pool that confirms it gets paid that Coinbase reward of 3.15, and all the transactional fees of every single transaction within that block, all of that goes to the miner. That miner is normally where the exchanges buy the Bitcoin from so that they can sell it on to you at a markup. You can be the miner. This is the thing here. You could be where you obtain your Bitcoin from, okay? But the problem here with mining, or first caveat I will give you, is it is highly capital intensive. You need to put down the money for the miner. You need to make sure you've done the mathematical equations and write-ups on how much your electricity is going to cost you, how much the miner is going to take from that electricity, and how much you can afford for that and your house, everything else that you're doing in your life, right? So these are just simple mathematical things that you need to do, though, to ensure that you don't buy a miner that you cannot run. Okay, it's not a good idea.
Yeah, usually if you first start learning about Bitcoin, it's not a good idea to get into mining straight away, because probably you don't know that much about it. It requires really specific knowledge, capital intensive, as we said, and you need some sort of edge, for example, like overclocking the miners, having a good access to cheap electricity or stranded electricity. But it's a very interesting field of knowledge in terms of Bitcoin. So, for example, here we have put out one example that's based in Kenya, that's gridless. So you can check it out at gridlesscompute.com. They have very interesting content on mini grids across Africa and how Bitcoin mining helps stabilize the grids and helps them expand. So heavily encouraged to check gridlesscompute.com because it's very empowering to people in Africa that this type of industry is a very good fit for Africa.
That's correct. I mean, I was at one of Gridless's in Kenya. I went to the mining farm in Kenya, and it's amazing to see because the way that they even built it was with the community. They didn't try to come in there and say, we're going to do this now and take over everything. And they literally moved an entire river to move via the hydro solution to pull out the electricity that then they would mine with, and then move the river right back into its knob. They literally just created a horseshoe where they could then garner the energy that this river is putting out to then use in the Bitcoin miners. Two factors that they use here. They're actually not disturbing the rest of the farmers downhill from them because the river goes straight back into where it originally was in the stream. And the second thing is they are now putting that electricity that they are getting back into the community by switching off their miners when the community needs more. So Bitcoin mining allows for a buyer of first and last resort. Meaning if you don't have anybody to purchase the electricity, you can ask Bitcoin miners to come through with their mining equipment, set up where they have the electricity, and then pay you a percentage because now they're gaining free or cheaper, like Joseph said, cheaper access to electricity. This allows for Bitcoin miners to set up mini grids or help mini grids be set up in places where nobody would ever be able to pay for that electricity. Thus, electrifying things like villages, schools, just by being able to say, hey, we will put it up here and we'll help you moving forward. Bitcoin circular economies. This slide will tell you a lot. Firstly, it will tell you in 2013, there was one company that decided, or one group of people that decided, you know what? We need to find a way where people can not only earn Bitcoin, but spend it as well. Because if you only have a place that you can get, but you can't spend, it's kind of, what am I going to do with this thing once I have it? How do I make sure I can live, my family can live, and in the future they can prosper? That is how we would do this, is to say, I have somebody where I can spend the Bitcoin. I have some way to get the Bitcoin. This allows me to live on a Bitcoin standard, right? Now, Bitcoin circular economies are built for this reason. They're built to say, hey, let's first introduce Bitcoin to our people, make sure they understand why this is a benefit to them, and then ensure that they have places where they can go and utilize this Bitcoin if they so choose. Because they don't have to, they can save it. But if they want to go and utilize it as money, where would they do that? Bitcoin circular economies bring that together. Now, as you can see, as from 2019, when Bitcoin Beach sprung up, everybody decided they wanted to Bitcoin circular economies. Just
Yeah, and so there's a lot of places that use Bitcoin as actual money around the world nowadays. Some of those survive, some of those don't. It's brilliant to see like all these experiments around the world in various types of communities. You have townships, you have like wealthy areas as well using Bitcoin as actual money. It's for everybody. And there's actually so many circular economies around the world now that there is like an overarching structure emerging that's called the Federation of Bitcoin Circular Economies. So you can check them out and see if there is a circular economy in your neighborhood.
Yeah, and as Joseph said, this thing has gotten so big. This, as you can see in the slide, it stopped in 2022. Basically, because there's just too many. You will not be able to put it all on one slide now. They are just all over the world. And in Africa, you're starting to see multiples popping up, not only in countries, but in towns. So you're getting places where that have 3 or 4 circular economies, one in one neighborhood, one in another, others that are just for, I'll give you an example. Bitcoin Data started a Bitcoin circular economy around educating women on Bitcoin and financial literacy, not just on Bitcoin. Those ladies then went to go and build other companies that people can go and spend the Bitcoin that they earn at, building a circular economy around it from a grassroots movement to educate women. So this is something that it could be your forte or just something that you enjoy or thought about that could become a whole movement. This slide is really important because, as we said, to build a circular economy, you need places to spend your Bitcoin. Even though you're earning, it's great, you can save in it. But at some point, if you want to spend your Bitcoin, we would advise you not to sell it. Try spending your Bitcoin at a place that accepts Bitcoin so that you can literally spread the wealth of Bitcoin around and the message of freedom money. Now, how do you find those places? Well, there's a great group of people that created something called BTC Maps, where you can go on and globally it will tell you where are there places that you can spend your Bitcoin. So before you go on a trip, you can say, hey, I'm going to Prague. What places there are on BTC Map already that I can go to and spend my Bitcoin? Now, not all places accept Bitcoin, correct?
Yeah, that's right. But in Prague itself, you can spend sats pretty much everywhere now.
Great. But for some of us that don't have the ability, or the place that you're going to doesn't accept Bitcoin, we have things like Bitrefill. Bitrefill was created, I would say, as a means to get people gift cards with Bitcoin. So now you can buy let's say McDonald's doesn't accept Bitcoin, but Bitrefill in that town has a McDonald's voucher. What you can do is purchase the McDonald's voucher with Bitcoin, then go spend that voucher at McDonald's. What you have just done is spend your Bitcoin. You should tell them that you did that so that the McDonald's people know that they could have taken it directly though, right? And then for those of us that travel a lot, you might need to update your data plan, or you might need to buy a new data plan when you're going into another country. But you don't really want to do this with a KYC method, maybe with your bank account. Maybe you don't even want people to know you're in that country where you're going to. You could use sats to data, right?
Mhm.
And in that, you can literally buy data for your mobile phones or your mobile devices so that you can move around in different countries. I mean, I'm standing in Czech Republic with an eSIM that I bought with Bitcoin right now.
Right. Yeah. And for those that are not maybe based in Africa and are watching this type of content, it's useful to check out Geyser Fund, because that's where a lot of projects that are active in Africa, like for example the circular economies like Bitcoin Akasi, they present what they are working on, what they need the funds for. So if you're looking to support some meaningful Bitcoin project, you can find those at geyser.fund.
So for those of you that don't know, Geyser Fund is a crowdfunding platform where people can support you in Bitcoin, as Joseph just said. Other platforms have been known to be here and there and decide who can get the funds and who cannot. Geyser makes sure that you can attach your Lightning address or your NPUB from your Nostr account to directly receive any and all donations given to your project. Or you can always just exchange Bitcoin for local currency, P2P, like we said before. This is still an option for you.
Yeah, so you don't have to spend your Bitcoin directly or buy some Bitcoin, some vouchers for the merchants that you want to spend your money at. Bitcoin has this very special characteristic that you can always exchange Bitcoin for the local currency wherever you are in the world. I don't think any other, maybe US dollar would be similar.
Illegal.
Not
illegal to do in my country. If you found with US dollars there, you put in jail. So yeah, Bitcoin is the only one globally, unless it's been banned in that country, that you can do that for.
Yeah, and you can always find somebody peer-to-peer local. You don't have to go to an office or bank or a sanctioned exchange.
Correct.
You just need to find local Bitcoiners that will be very happy to buy the Bitcoin of you for their local fiat currency.
Oh, very, very happy to do that. Now we have a little thing to warn you about. This is the biggest caveat. How do you not get wrecked when dealing in Bitcoin or any other virtual assets? So I'm going to tell you what I always tell people. Do not trade. If you're not a trader by nature, do not trade. Now, you might think, hey, but there's a course on YouTube where I can learn to trade overnight. You're trading against people that do this as a profession. The same way that you're going to go run against Usain Bolt. If you're not training to run against Usain Bolt, you're going to lose to Usain Bolt. So please do not trade if you're not a trader. It is actually the opposite of what you think you're doing. You are then going out to gamble instead of actually doing a thought out process. So what we would say is don't speculate on the short term. Don't gamble with Bitcoin. What you can do is earn it. You can already earn it. You can buy it and you can hold it. Now, day trading leads to a loss
Yes.
for majority of the people. They'll always tell you how many trades they won. They'll never tell you how many they lost, correct?
Yeah. And you can even see headlines like 95% of the traders lose over some period of time. That's what usually happens because like Bitcoin in itself is very interesting in terms of preserving your purchasing power. If you just buy it or get it in some way, like earn it and hold on to it, you don't need any more drama in your life.
Most definitely. I think many of us have enough of that. And if by some chance you decide you don't want to listen to myself and Joseph, and you do go and day trade, please do not leverage trade. Please don't trade with more than you have.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, perfect point. Exactly.
Now, why do we like Bitcoin? Why is it that Bitcoin is the one? Well, Bitcoin's been battle tested since 2009. China goes after Bitcoin every 2 to 4 years trying to ban it. So if China, who literally has a great wall of China that they block Google, Facebook, cannot stop Bitcoin, and have continuously tried, mind you, okay, then it has to have certain features that other things that have been banned just don't. Those certain features are what we build on. The battle testing is on seeing, can you do a 51% mining attack? Can you do XYZ? There have been over the years many attempts to steal Bitcoin from a seed phrase, but how do you get the seed phrase? All of these things come into play.
Yeah, a couple of important points to make and remember. Bitcoin has been running the longest time among all the cryptocurrencies. So since January 2009, 16 years. Bitcoin is truly decentralized. We have shown in the previous session like all the elements that need to be in perfect harmony for Bitcoin to really run for 16 years without any major issue. It has no leader, no foundation, no company, no central bank, no government behind it. That's why it's so resilient. But also Bitcoin is becoming increasingly recognized even by the financial institutions and government that sort of like stand on the other side. So for example, El Salvador recognized Bitcoin as a legal currency, as a legal tender in 2021. And I would say El Salvador has been doing very well since then. It went from one of the most dangerous countries in the world to one of the safest in just the span of 3 years. And it's partially connected to them using Bitcoin as legal tender. And the last point to make here is sure, you can check out the other cryptocurrencies, but a lot of them have basically 100% risk of losing your funds. As you can see on the infographic, over 50% of the cryptocurrencies that have emerged in the last 10 years have died.
And that is a statistic that I think many people need to actually think about. Where are you putting your money when in the last 10 years, the top 10 coins on Coinbase have changed continuously? The only one that stayed there is Bitcoin.
Yeah, and as number one.
It's number one the entire time. So when you're looking at this from a purely if you're going to speculate on something, speculate on why has Bitcoin for 16 years been the number one in that whole ranking, yet everything else underneath it has changed, not only their rankings, but completely. Like whole new coins have come, others have left that people thought were going to be Bitcoin silver, and that just doesn't exist. So please, when we talk about why you should think about Bitcoin only, take all of these facets into account. Everything that we've said today to you, because this isn't something we've made up. The infographics exist because it has been researched. This has been tried and tested continuously. How many times have others been tested? That's what you have to ask yourself and see, where would you stand? So, to bring it up, I was almost wrecked many times. I got out of exchanges before they crashed. As Joseph said earlier, some of these exchanges, it's not just that, the regulations are the problem. The exchange itself can crash. FTX was one such exchange that crashed under the hopes of another coin, the FTT token and all these other tokens that were being pumped up as this new thing. But today, the owner of FTX is in jail. His co-conspirators, or who were part of his board, are also in jail or on their way to jail. So when you look at the history of how these other coins and these exchanges work, there's a reason we tell you to hold your own coins. Because if FTX goes down and your coins are on that exchange, your coins are going down with FTX because they hold the 12 words. Remember the keys, they never gave it to you. The keys to your coins, they've always held as exchanges. Once you take it into your self-custody with your keys, then it is safe. So please, even if you're going to use an exchange, make sure to hold your keys. So, we've reached the end of this section. And what I'd like you to do is, please, if you have any questions, any and all questions, please do scan the QR code and message us on Twitter. Ask any questions you want. Please keep them Bitcoin related, and I'm sure they will be answered to you.
Thank you very much for watching. Follow the Trezor Academy on Twitter, as Okin said, and we will see you in the next section in session 3 of the Trezor Academy program.
Enjoy it.